was a cold night in the human colony of RN7, far from Earth. The sky above was full of stars, but the ground below was quiet. Most people were already asleep. Eric, a human repairman in his 30s, was walking back to his small metal home after fixing a broken power line near the colony's edge. He passed an old storage shed. It had been locked for months, but tonight he heard something. A sound. Very soft. It wasn't the wind. It was a cry. A child's cry. Eric froze. His heart beat faster. He looked around. No one else was nearby. Carefully he walked to the shed, pushed aside a loose piece of metal and looked inside. In the darkness, two glowing eyes stared back at him. A small alien girl was hiding behind broken boxes. Her skin was a pale purple with thin arms and legs. She looked no older than 7, maybe 8. She was shaking, her body covered in a thin cloth that was torn and dirty. When Eric stepped closer, the girl whimpered and pressed herself against the wall. "Hey," he said gently, holding his hands up. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." The girl didn't speak. She only stared. Then, with a trembling voice, she whispered something in broken English. "I never had a birthday." Eric blinked. Out of all the things she could have said, that was what came out. He crouched down. "What's your name?" he asked. She looked at the floor. "No name," she said. Eric felt a deep sadness in his chest. He looked around. There was nothing in the shed, no food, no blanket, not even a light. Just an old bottle and some rusted tools. "Are you alone?" he asked. She nodded slowly. He reached into his bag and pulled out a protein bar. "Here," he said. "You must be hungry." The girl stared at the bar like it was a treasure. She didn't grab it, though. "Go ahead," Eric encouraged her. Carefully, she crawled forward and took it from his hand. She unwrapped it with shaky fingers and ate like she hadn't eaten in days. "What happened to you?" he asked softly. She didn't answer. "Did someone hurt you?" She paused, then nodded once. Eric looked around again. This wasn't right. She wasn't from the colony. Her species wasn't common here. She must have been left behind. Or worse, thrown away. "Where are your parents?" he tried. "I don't know," she said. "They left when I was small." Eric swallowed hard. His chest felt tight. What kind of world leaves a child to starve in an empty shed? "Do you want to come with me?" he asked gently. She looked up. "I have food, warm bed, safe place." She didn't speak. But slowly she stood. Her legs wobbled like a newborn fawn. Eric reached out, but she flinched. He waited. She finally nodded. He didn't ask more questions. He took off his coat and wrapped it around her small frame. They walked back to his home. It wasn't big, just 2 rooms and a solar heater, but it was warm, safe. As they entered, the girl looked around, wide-eyed. She'd never seen a home like this. Eric helped her sit on the soft couch and brought her a warm bowl of soup. "What should I call you?" he asked. She hesitated, then said, "Luma." It wasn't much, but it was a name. Her name. Eric smiled. "Nice to meet you, Luma." She looked down at the steam rising from the soup, then looked up. "Will you send me back?" she asked quietly. Eric shook his head. "Not tonight. You're safe here." Luma's shoulders relaxed just a little. She ate slowly, savoring every bite. Eric sat across from her watching. He didn't know what he was doing, but he knew one thing for sure. No child should feel forgotten. No child should hide in a shed. No child should whisper, "I never had a birthday." And maybe, just maybe, he could give her one. Luma didn't sleep well that first night. Even though the couch was soft and the blanket was warm, her body kept shaking. She opened her eyes every few minutes, as if expecting someone to drag her back into the dark. Eric stayed up too. He sat in the chair near the small heater, pretending to read. but his eyes kept watching the little alien girl who now slept under his roof. Around midnight, she woke up suddenly, gasping, her tiny hands clutching the blanket. Her breathing was fast, her eyes wide. Eric moved slowly toward her. "Luma?" he said gently. She didn't answer. Her eyes were staring at something that wasn't there. Eric knelt beside the couch. "It's okay," he said, his voice soft like the wind. "No one's going to hurt you here." Her breathing slowed just a little. "Do you want me to stay close?" he asked. She nodded once. So Eric lay down on the floor beside the couch, using a folded towel as a pillow. He didn't touch her, didn't speak again. Just stayed close. The heater hummed softly. After a long time, Luma whispered, "They used to lock me in a box." Eric said nothing. His throat felt tight. "They said I didn't deserve anything because I was born wrong." Eric turned his head toward her. "You're not wrong," he said. "You're just a child who deserves more." Silence followed. But then, for the first time, Luma pulled the blanket a little wider and let it fall over his shoulder too. A small sign of trust. In the morning, Eric made a simple breakfast. Warm oats with fruit, cubes. Luma sat at the table, staring at the spoon in her hand like it was strange. "You eat like this?" she asked. "Yeah," he smiled. "Food tastes better when it's warm." She took a bite, and her eyes lit up. "Sweet," she said, softly. Eric chuckled. "Glad you like it." After breakfast, Luma wandered around the small house, touching everything carefully. She stopped in front of a shelf filled with small items, a cracked compass, a photo frame, a broken music player, and a birthday candle still in its wrapper. Her finger hovered near the candle. "What's this?" she asked. Eric walked over. "That's a candle," he said. "We light it during birthdays." Luma's voice dropped. "For humans?" "For everyone," Eric said. She didn't speak for a long moment, then asked, "Do aliens get birthdays too?" Eric crouched beside her. "They should. Everyone should." She looked down. Eric stood. "You never had one, right?" She shook her head slowly. "Well," he said, trying to sound light, "maybe it's time we fix that." Her head snapped up. "What?" "Nothing." "Fancy," he said, smiling. "Just a little surprise. But first you need new clothes and something fun to play with." She blinked. "Why?" "Because," he said, "birthdays need joy, and you need to feel like a kid." That afternoon, Eric visited his friend Ro, a gentle alien merchant who ran a small outpost near the edge of the colony. "I need something small," Eric explained. "For a child, clothes, toys, anything." Ro raised an eyebrow. "You have a child now?" Eric didn't explain everything. "I found her," he said. "She was abandoned. She's been through a lot." Ro's eyes softened. Without another word, the alien packed a small bag, a soft sweater with holes for her forefingers, a toy that spun in the air, and a small pink orb that made musical sounds when tapped. "No charge," Ro said. "Give her a smile for me." When Eric returned home, Luma was sitting on the floor with his old screwdriver poking at the broken music player. "It's not working," she said. Eric smiled. "You like fixing things?" She nodded. "Maybe you're a little engineer." She looked unsure. "I'm not allowed to be anything." He knelt beside her. "That's not true anymore." He handed her the gift bag. Her fingers hesitated, but then she opened it. One by one, she pulled the items out. The toy, the sweater, the glowing orb. Her hands trembled, and then, without warning, she burst into tears. Eric panicked. "What's wrong?" She shook her head. "No one ever gave me anything," she whispered. He sat beside her quietly. "From now on," he said, "you'll get what every child should. Warmth, safety, maybe even a birthday cake." She looked at him with tearful eyes. Cake?" He smiled. "Yep. You'll see." That night, Luma fell asleep faster. This time, her blanket didn't just cover her. It wrapped her like a warm hug. Eric stayed nearby again. But now he was planning something, a day that would change her life. Because sometimes all it takes is one moment to tell a child, "You matter." Morning sunlight slipped through the window, falling gently across Luma's face. She blinked awake, wrapped in the same blanket that had become her shield against the world. For the first time in her short life, she didn't wake up afraid. She stretched her arms carefully, looking around the small room filled with warmth, strange smells, and a quiet calm. Eric was in the kitchen, humming a tune as he stirred something in a small pot. Luma quietly tiptoed closer. "What's that smell?" she asked, her voice still sleepy. "Porridge," he said with a smile. "With honey." "Honey?" She tilted her head. "That's a human food, right?" "Yep," Eric nodded. "And today you get a big bowl." Luma smiled shyly, but that peace didn't last. Just as Eric handed her the warm bowl and sat down across from her, a loud knock came at the door. Bang, bang, bang. Luma jumped, dropping the spoon. Her face turned pale. She ran behind the table, hiding herself. Eric stood slowly, frowning. Another knock, louder this time. "Eric Thorne?" a deep voice called. "Yeah," Eric replied, stepping to the door. "Who is it?" "Colony Security," the voice said. "We need to speak with you." Eric's chest tightened. He turned and glanced at Luma. Her whole body was shaking. Her fingers dug into the wall. She whispered something in her native tongue, words filled with fear. Eric opened the door a crack. 2 officers stood outside in gray armor. 1 human, 1 alien. Both looked serious. "We received a report," said the alien officer. "Someone saw an unauthorized alien miner entering your home 2 days ago." Eric didn't blink. "I don't know anything about that," he said calmly. "Mind if we look around?" The human officer asked. Eric opened the door wider but only stepped into the frame. "I live alone. Always have," he said. "You can search my ID logs." The alien officer narrowed his eyes. "We're not here to accuse, just to check." Eric shrugged. "Nothing to check. I've been working overtime. Ask my supervisor." The 2 officers glanced at each other. "All right," said the human officer. "But if you see anything suspicious, report it." "Of course," Eric nodded. They left after a long pause. Eric closed the door and locked it. Luma crawled out from behind the table, still shaking. "Are they gone?" she asked, voice barely a whisper. Eric nodded and knelt beside her. "Yes, but we have to be careful." Her eyes filled with tears. "They'll take me away." "No," he said firmly. "Not if I can help it." "But I don't belong here," she whispered. "I'm not one of you." Eric looked at her. "You belong where you're safe. That's here, with me." That evening, Eric installed a motion alarm near the gate. He didn't tell Luma, but he knew the officers might come back. Someone in the colony had noticed her. They had to lay low. Inside the house, Eric gave Luma a small sketch pad and pencils. "I thought you might like to draw," he said. She stared at the pad. "I don't know how." "That's okay," he said. "Just try." She sat quietly holding the pencil. Slowly her hand began to move. First a line, then a shape, then a face with wide eyes. "Is that you?" Eric asked, peeking over. "No," she said softly. "It's someone I remember. She used to give me food." "Who was she?" "I don't know," she whispered. "She was taken away before I learned her name." Eric didn't ask more. He let her draw. But later that night, as she fell asleep again, he stared at the door. Someone wanted her gone. He didn't know who, but he knew what he had to do. The next morning, he met Ro again, the alien merchant. "They came," Eric said. "Security." Ro's face darkened. "They're starting sweeps," he muttered. "Looking for strays. They think orphan aliens are dangerous." "She's not dangerous," Eric growled. "She's a child." Ro nodded. But laws don't care. Eric leaned in. Can you get me a temporary ID chip? Ro frowned. That's risky. She needs it. If anyone scans her, she's gone. Ro hesitated, then nodded. Give me a day, he said. Back home, Luma was quiet again. She barely touched her food. Eric sat down beside her. They might come back, he said. Honestly, but I'm not giving up on you. Luma looked up. Why are you being kind to me? She asked. No one ever is. Eric paused, then said, because someone should have been, long ago. Tears filled her eyes again, but this time, they didn't fall. She stood up and walked over to her drawing. She picked up the pencil and added something, a second figure beside the first. I drew you, she whispered. Eric smiled. Trouble was coming, but for now, there was still hope. And maybe a birthday to plan. Eric stood quietly in front of the shelf, staring at the single birthday candle. It had been sitting there for years, waiting for a reason. Now, he finally had one. He turned and looked at Luma. She was curled up on the couch, holding the glowing music orb Ro had gifted her. Its soft hum played a tune as her small fingers tapped gently. Her eyes were tired, but she smiled every now and then. Something new for her. Eric smiled too. He had made a decision. She was getting a birthday, not just any birthday, but her first real one. One she would never forget. The next morning, while Luma napped, Eric slipped out of the house. He kept his head low, avoiding colony patrols. He visited a few traders making secret deals and trades. He bought ribbons, sweets, old decorations, and even a second-hand cake printer. It was dented, but it still worked. Then he found the hardest thing. A dress. It was alien-made, designed for a child like Luma. Soft blue fabric, long sleeves, and tiny crystals around the neck that shimmered faintly under light. It wasn't perfect, but it was beautiful. When Eric returned home, Luma was up pacing nervously. Where were you? She asked, voice tight. I was getting supplies, he said, placing the bags down. She frowned. You left me alone. Eric paused. You're right, he said gently. I should have told you. Her eyes lowered. I thought maybe they took you. Eric knelt and placed a hand on her shoulder. I'm not going anywhere, I promise. She didn't speak, but her hand slowly touched his, just for a moment. That night, Eric started building the surprise. He cleared the storage room, cleaned the walls, and added glowing string lights around the edges. In the center, he placed a small table and chairs. Over the window, he taped star-shaped papers Luma had drawn, and in the middle of the table, he placed the dress, folded neatly, with a little note. Wear me when you're ready to smile, yo. Next morning, Eric pretended everything was normal. Just going to fix the heating coil, he said. Luma nodded sleepily, still wrapped in her blanket. Once outside, Eric messaged Ro. Tonight is the birthday. Ro replied, I'll bring the dust. That afternoon, Eric made the final touches. The cake printer warmed up, buzzing gently. He chose a sweet berry flavor. Mild, but colorful. He placed the birthday candle in the middle and whispered, one small light for one brave girl. He set up the spinner toy, the music orb, and a small hollow photo frame ready to capture the moment. Everything was almost ready. Now came the hard part. Luma? Eric said gently, poking his head into the living room. She looked up from her drawing pad. I have something to show you, he said, her brow furrowed. Is it bad? Eric smiled. I hope not. He led her to the storage room door. It was shut. He reached for the handle. Close your eyes. She hesitated, then obeyed. He opened the door, then whispered, Okay, open. Luma stepped forward and froze. Her eyes went wide. There were lights, tiny and glowing like stars. A table with sweet smells and sparkles floating in the air. And On the table, that beautiful blue dress glowing faintly like it had been made for her. "What is this?" she whispered. Eric smiled. "It's your birthday, Luma." She turned to him slowly. "My... what?" "Your birthday?" he said. "You said you never had one. So now, you do." She covered her mouth with both hands. Her eyes filled with tears. "You did all this for me?" Eric nodded. "Because you deserve it." She stared at the dress. "I don't know how to wear it," she said softly. "I'll help," Eric said. Minutes later, Luma stepped into the room again, wearing the dress. It shimmered under the soft lights. Her hair was brushed, her small feet bare on the warm floor. Ro arrived, silently, through the back door. He didn't speak, just smiled and tossed glowing alien dust into the air. It floated like magic, green, and gold swirls that danced gently. Luma gasped. Eric clapped his hands. "Time for cake." She walked forward slowly. He lit the candle. "One wish," he said. She looked at the flame. "I wish." "This never ends," she whispered. Then she blew. The light went out, but her smile stayed. That night they laughed, they danced, they played with the spinner until it hit the wall. They took a hollow photo together, Luma sitting on Eric's shoulders, arms raised like she could fly. For the first time in her life, she felt seen, not as a mistake, not as something thrown away, but as a child, a girl, a person, with a name, and a birthday. That night Luma couldn't stop smiling. She sat on the floor, her new blue dress glowing faintly as she spun the toy Ro had gifted her. The birthday cake had been half-eaten, the room still filled with the sweet scent of berries and melted icing. The floating alien dust shimmered above like stars caught in a dream. Eric sat nearby, tired but happy. He hadn't seen a child smile like that in a long time, not even on Earth. "I want every day to be like this," Luma whispered suddenly. Eric chuckled. "Then I'll need a lot more candles." She laughed softly, then leaned against him, resting her head on his arm. For a child who once flinched at every sound, this moment of closeness was a miracle. But miracles don't last forever. The next morning, Luma woke up before Eric. She walked into the room quietly and stared at the photo they had taken the night before. Her small hand held high, a grin on her face, sitting on Eric's shoulders like a queen. It felt real. It felt safe. She picked up the music orb and gave it a gentle tap. Soft notes filled the air. Then, knock, knock, knock. Her body froze. No, not again. Another knock. Harder this time. Luma dropped the orb, heart racing. She rushed to Eric's room and shook his arm. "Eric, someone's here." He opened his eyes instantly, alert. He grabbed his coat and walked to the door slowly. He opened it just a crack. 2 officers again. The same ones. Only this time they weren't smiling. "Eric Thorne," the alien officer said. "We need to speak to you inside." Eric didn't move. "What's this about?" "We have reason to believe you are harboring an unregistered alien child. I already told you." "We received a photo," the human officer interrupted. "From an anonymous source." Eric's heart dropped. The photo, the hollow photo from last night. He had uploaded it to his personal cloud backup. But someone had hacked it. They had seen Luma. And now, they were here for her. Inside, Luma crouched under the kitchen table, holding her breath. She heard the voices outside. She knew. This time was different. They weren't asking, they were coming. Eric turned to look at her. Just a flash of eye contact from across the room. She understood. "Run." He gave her the smallest nod, then turned back to the officers. "If you want to come in," he said slowly, "you'll need a warrant." The alien officer stepped forward. "We have one." He held out a datapad. Eric's eyes scanned it. Legitimate, his fists clenched. "Stand aside," the officer said. Luma didn't wait. She crawled fast toward the back, grabbed her small bag, the music orb, and the birthday photo. She didn't take anything else. She slipped through the back hatch Eric had built for emergencies, just in case, and ran toward the old tunnels near the junkyard. Meanwhile, the officers stepped in. They searched quickly. Living. Room, kitchen, bedroom, nothing. "Where is she?" the human asked. Eric crossed his arms. "I told you I live alone." The alien officer narrowed his eyes. "We will find her." "Maybe," Eric said, "but not today." Luma crawled through the dark tunnel, her small feet slipping on metal. Her heart pounded in her chest. She had to keep going. That's what Eric would want. At the end of the tunnel, a hatch opened into the old storage field. It was full of scrap and rusted machines, but hidden inside one of the broken containers was a small emergency shelter Eric had built weeks ago, just in case. She climbed in, locked the hatch behind her, and waited. Back at the house, the officers gave up after 30 minutes. The alien grunted. "We'll place surveillance." The human nodded. "If he contacts her, we'll trace it." As they left, Eric slowly let out a breath. He walked back inside. The house felt empty. But he smiled, because in a hidden drawer near the floor vent, his communicator blinked once. One signal. Luma was safe. Later that night, Ro returned under the cover of darkness. "She made it?" he asked. Eric nodded. "She's in the shelter. I told her to wait until I contact her." "They're getting aggressive," Ro said. "And whoever sent that photo," Eric's jaw tightened. "I'll find out who. But for now," Ro said. "What next?" Eric looked at the flickering birthday candle on the table. "She had one perfect day," he said. "Now I'll fight to give her a future." In a cold metal box beneath the stars, Luma hugged the music orb close. She looked at the birthday photo again. And for the first time in days, she didn't cry. Because she knew Eric hadn't given up, and neither would she. The next few days passed like a storm hiding behind silent clouds. Eric went about his work like nothing had happened, fixing lights, replacing wires, and talking politely to other colonists. But his mind was never at rest. Every sound made him glance over his shoulder. Every drone that hovered overhead made his fists clench. Luma was still hiding in the shelter, and the colony was starting to talk. At the main supply station, Eric overheard two engineers whispering while fixing a broken pipe. "Did you hear? Security found an empty house near the junkyard, but there were signs someone was living there. Another stray alien kid, probably. That's the third rumor this month. They should all be rounded up. It's dangerous, hiding them like that." Eric pretended not to listen, but inside his anger grew. "She's not dangerous. She's just a child." Later that evening, Ro came to visit Eric again, this time wearing a dusty cloak that covered his face. "They're listening now," he warned, "even in the market. Some say you've gone soft. Others think you're a threat." Eric sighed. "Because I gave a girl a birthday cake?" "Because you gave her hope," Ro said, "and hope spreads." Eric glanced out the window. He could feel it too. Something was changing. Meanwhile, Luma stayed hidden. The small metal shelter was cold at night, but she didn't complain. Eric had left food packs, clean water, and a blanket. Her only company was the glowing music orb and the birthday photo. She looked at that photo every morning and every night. Not because she missed that day, but because it reminded her of who she was now. Someone who mattered. Someone who had been celebrated. But even in that quiet space, she started to hear whispers. The old machines near the junkyard sometimes echoed voices. Humans talking, aliens gossiping, traitors arguing. One day, she heard a voice say, "They say a human helped one of them escape, a little alien girl." Another replied, "If that's true, he's done for. They'll strip him of his job, maybe exile." Luma's chest tightened. No, not because of me. That night, Eric sent her a message on the hidden communicator. They're watching me closely. I can't visit yet, but I haven't forgotten you. She replied quickly. I want to come back. I'll hide better. I don't want you to get hurt. Eric stared at the message. He tapped a slow reply. No, you're more important than my comfort. You deserve more than hiding. You deserve the whole sky. The next day, the colony's main board posted a message. New law. Unauthorized harboring of alien minors is now a punishable offense. Citizens are urged to report any suspicious behavior. Eric read it twice, then crumpled the notice and walked away. But not everyone agreed with the law. Later that week, an old woman from the colony knocked on Eric's door. Her name was Marla. She'd lived in Aaron 7 for decades. I saw what you did, she said, voice low. Eric stiffened. I saw her, Marla continued. The little one in the blue dress. Eric said nothing. I lost my daughter in a fire, she whispered. Years ago. No one gave her a second chance. You gave that girl something more than food. Eric's throat tightened. You gave her love, Marla said, smiling sadly. That scares them. Why? Eric asked quietly. Because if one alien child is worth saving, then they'll have to admit all the others are too. The whispers continued to grow. Some called him the alien's father. Others called him a traitor. But then, something strange happened. A drawing appeared on the colony's central board. Done in soft colors, it showed a human man giving an alien child a birthday cake. The child's eyes were wide with joy. Below it were 3 words. She belongs too. No. One knew who drew it, but it spread. Soon, other children in the colony, both human and alien, started asking questions. Why don't the alien kids get birthdays? Why are they hiding? Why do we treat them like they're not real people? Parents struggled to answer. And quietly, change began. One night, Eric received a message from Ro. Meet me tomorrow. I have news. Big news. Eric didn't sleep. Neither did Luma. The next morning, while the colony buzzed with new rumors, a little girl sat quietly in a cold shelter staring at a photo. And in that photo was a moment no law could erase. A man and a child. A cake, a candle, and a single, honest smile. The stars above Aaron 7 had always been quiet. But tonight, they felt different. Brighter, warmer, like they were waiting for something. Eric stood on a rocky hill outside the colony, wind brushing through his hair. Beside him stood Luma, her small, hand holding tightly to his. She was no longer wearing the old torn cloth from the night he found her. Now she wore a soft brown jacket, stitched with patches from different alien clans. On her head, a wool cap Ro had knitted for her. Her eyes sparkled under the moonlight. It had been weeks since the birthday, weeks since everything changed, and now, it was time. You see that one? Eric pointed to a glowing star above the horizon. Luma squinted. The big one? He nodded. That's yours now. She blinked, confused. Mine? Yeah, Eric smiled. I registered it, gave it your name. Her mouth slowly opened. You can do that? Eric chuckled. When you work long hours in a forgotten colony and trade a few favors, yes, you can. She turned her eyes to the star again. So, that's Luma, she whispered. He nodded. From now on, every time you look up, no matter where you are, you'll know you're part of something bigger. Luma stayed silent, staring, then whispered, No one's ever named anything after me? They should have, Eric said. You're the brightest thing in my sky. Back in the colony, things had started to shift. The drawing of the girl and the birthday cake had become a quiet symbol. More children, both human and alien, had started drawing their own pictures. Some teachers even allowed them to be displayed in classrooms. One colony guard quit his post and opened a small shelter for abandoned alien youth. And the law? Still in place. But people had begun to look at it differently, some with doubt, some with shame, some with hope. Roe's news had changed everything. He had found a small group of colonists and traders, human and alien, who believed in what Eric had done. They called themselves the Kind Root. And they had a plan. One that included protection, passage to safer zones, and fake IDs for alien children like Luma, until permanent rights could be granted. But it was dangerous. If caught, Eric could be sent back to Earth in chains. He had thought about it for days, then made his choice. He would take the risk. Because Luma wasn't just any child now. She was his. As they sat on the hill, Luma finally asked the question that had been hiding in her heart. "Are you going to send me away?" Eric looked at her surprised. "Why would you think that?" She looked down. "People say I make trouble for you. That if I wasn't here, they'd leave you alone." Eric gently lifted her chin with his finger. "Luma," he said firmly, "if I had to lose everything just to keep you safe, I'd do it 100 times over." She didn't speak. Tears filled her eyes. "But," she whispered, "what if they try to take me again?" Eric reached into his coat and pulled out a small necklace. It had a stone with glowing carvings, alien script. He placed it around her neck. "This was my mother's," he said. "She told me it would always lead me home." Luma clutched it tightly. "I don't want another home," she said. "I just want to stay with you." Eric smiled. "You already are." 2 weeks later, a quiet ceremony was held under the radar, in the back of Roe's trading station. Just a few witnesses, one document, and a promise. Eric Thorne officially adopted Luma as his daughter. No papers were filed with the colony board, but everyone in the room knew it was real. In the months that followed, more humans began stepping forward to help lost alien children. Food packs were left in quiet corners. Blankets appeared outside sheds. Birthday drawings spread across walls like vines. Some still hated it. Some still whispered, but others had started to believe. All because one man gave one child a candle, a cake, and a name in the sky. That night, Luma stood alone on the hill. She looked up. Her star blinked back at her. "I see you," she whispered. And for the first time in her life, she didn't feel small. She didn't feel broken. She didn't feel like something left behind. She felt like a daughter, a girl with a name, a story, a family, and a sky that would always remember her.